Hi, I'm here with Caroline Munro. Now, the last time we spoke a lot about your acting career, which you are very well known for, but not as many people know you for your dabbling into your music career. In fact, your first major gig, per se, was a single in when you were about my age, by a French pop singer known as Vardell Smith, and the single is called Tar and Cement, and you were on the record with a couple of my personal heroes, Eric Clapton, Ginger Baker, Steve Howe. How did that come about?
I tell you how it came about. I was very lucky. I used to sing in the church choir at school, and my father's friend was head of Decca. His name was Steve Beecher Stevens, and they were looking for a young girl to maybe record with this wonderful producer called Mark Wirtz. He went on to do Grocer Jack, and he had some big hits. And they were looking for somebody, and Steve, head of Decca, had heard that I sang a bit, and he said, well, why don't we, and I'd started modeling a bit, so there were photographs, and he said, well, she looks okay, so let's see if she sings a bit. So the next thing I knew, I was in Abbey Road Studios. I was actually recorded in Abbey Road Studios, and they'd actually had put the backing track on, and the backing track was with Eric. It was actually Cream. It was pre-Cream, so you had Eric Clapton, you had Steve Howe of Yes, Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker. So I had an amazing...
Jack Bruce was on the record?
Yeah, Jack Bruce, all on it. So absolutely Cream. So we had that. And it was an amazing experience going into Abbey Road Studios, because I'd never been into a studios before, not in a professional sense. So I went in and did it. And my father was outside. And as I came out, he said, I've just been having a wonderful chat with four lads, and they've just gone, and they were recording next door to you. And you know who they were? That was the Beatles. So I was actually in the studio next to the Beatles when I was recording mine.
Now, were you recording simultaneously? Or?
Presumably we were. They were in the studio they always used, and I was in the next studio, isn't that?
Oh, that's pretty incredible.
I know. And I said, oh, Dad, I can't believe you were actually talking. He said they were very nice. So I was very impressed.
Now, around the mid-'80s, you also recorded a track with Gary Newman called Pump Me Up, which would actually later be released on the album Berserker as Pump It Up. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, again, it came about quite kind of strangely. A friend, a journalist, had taken some of my... I'd made some tapes, actually, demo tapes, and he'd taken the tapes down to Cannes, to the film festival there, or to the music festival, Medium, and Gary Newman was looking for some other projects other than just himself, and he kind of heard the tapes, and again he'd seen a photograph, and he said, let's try her. So I went into the studio, and I'd heard they'd sent me a demo tape of Pump Me Up. I thought it was interesting, with Gary singing it. They sent me the tape, so I went in, and there it was. It was a tad too high. The pitch was really too high, because again it was pre-recorded. But I did it, and he was terrific to work with. Really, he's quite shy, but lovely bloke. I got on really well with him. I really enjoyed it.
Well, with his public image, you kind of, is sort of...
He's not like his image, he's
You sort of make presumptions prior to that until you actually get to meet them.
Absolutely.
So. Now, along with your recording career, you've also appeared in a couple of videos, namely Meatloaf's If You Really Want To, as well as Adam Ant's Goody Two Shoes.
Yeah.
Now, this was around the time when, at least in the United States, the music video medium was sort of becoming very revolutionary, and it was at the peak of its popularity. How did you feel in your own way to be a part of that revolution of sorts?
I think it was wonderful, because I had a quiet ebb in my acting, and I heard from my agent in London at the time. he said, Adam Ant's really interested in having you for his video. And of course, I'd seen his videos, and they were fabulous. So I said, oh, yeah, I'd be really interested. Because Adam always wanted to do, he was keen on sci-fi. He was very into the cult films. So he knew a lot of the cult actors and actresses. So therefore, I got a chance to be in that, and it was brilliant. I loved it. He storyboarded everything. He did all the storyboards, so it was quite amazing to be a part of. Very talented.
And more recently, in the late 90s, you also collaborated with an experimental musician named Gary Wilson to create a small three-track disc as Wilson Munro.
Yes.
How did you two? Was it basically the same scenario as the two other recordings that we mentioned, as far as connecting to do the album?
I'd known Gary Wilson, or Gary Curtis, as he's now being called, for his recording. He's doing really well, by the way. But I'd known him since the 70s, since we did a publicity tour of Spy Who Loved Me all around England, and I got to meet Gary that way. And I've known him for years, really. And he's got a fabulous voice. He's actually sung with Christopher Lee, too, so he's a brilliant... Oh, yeah, he's done a lot of recording with him. So he just, he said, I hear you sing a bit. And I said, well, I do a bit. But so, again, we went into his studio down in Essex, which is out of London, and did some stuff there. It's something I'd still like to explore more. In fact, it's funnily enough, I got a chance. I've just finished a film in England. It was David Carradine's last film, and I had a chance to. They were doing singing, all dancing 3D film. So I got a chance to sing a bit in this film, but I think it's all going to be dubbed. I think it's. We were singing to the soundtracks of the various songs. So
were these like cover pieces?
Yes, cover pieces. It's kind of loosely based on the Blues Brothers. So mine was one of the hardest. It was Aretha Franklin. So can you imagine trying to sing that? So anyway, it was musical. So it was a good experience.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.